I'd want that honky-tonk bottom end, like the bass sound from those strings. So you need them to be big and tough kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So they sound pretty new today, right? But I thought they were shot to pieces after the show last night. But it must have been my hearing that was shot to pieces.
Welcome to WCBE.
Thanks for having us.
We've got this.
Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you here and talk about this new album, I'm Okay, No, I'm Not, where it all started in Cincinnati, Ohio. She's Nashville-based now. And we'll get warmed up with a song and come back and talk all about that and give some tickets away.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. What are you going to, what's the first one you're going to do?
We're starting with 8 Hours, which is off of my first record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's do it. Drinking again, I'm feeling foolish, 'cause I thought she would quit. Is it something I did? Something I did. My best friend and I don't talk anymore. One day I woke up and it felt different. Is it something I said? Or something I did? Can we pretend that everything's alright? Like none of it keeps us up at night. Can we pretend that everything's alright? Like we're getting 8 hours. 8 hours of sleep at night.
Greetings and welcome to this week's highlights from across the district. As November rolls in, so does National Career Development Month. At Columbus City Schools, we want this observance to motivate our students to visualize their career aspirations and discover the exciting opportunities that await them. Each CCS classroom serves as a stepping stone, sparking curiosity and providing valuable insights into various professional fields. Throughout November, let's encourage our students to dream boldly, to set ambitious goals and explore the pathways to achieve them. Here's to a month full of exploration and growth for our students. The holiday season is just around the corner, and it's the perfect time to spread cheer and generosity. We're excited to kick off our annual Stuff the Bus toy drive going on now through December 11th. In partnership with our dedicated transportation team, custodial staff, and NBC4, this celebrated tradition brings together our CCS family and community to make the holidays a little brighter for children across the district. This year, giving is easier than ever. Drop off any new unwrapped toys for children 12 and under at any donation box located throughout our schools and admin buildings across the district. Each gift supports the Firefighters for Kids campaign, helping families in need experience the season's joy. Join us in sharing the holiday spirit and making a difference. Mark your calendars and help us stuff the bus with kindness and holiday cheer for our community's children. On October 24th, East High School welcomes Central State University, Ohio's renowned HBCU, to connect with CCS seniors across the district. Central State representatives shared valuable insights about the university's programs, application process, and campus life. Students had the opportunity to explore degree pathways and learn about CSU's proud history of academic and cultural excellence. This inspiring visit highlights our commitment to introducing CCS students to enriching post-secondary options. Thank you, Marauders, for empowering our class of 2025 graduates and igniting new aspirations. On Monday, October 28th, Trevitt Elementary School's fourth graders stepped into the world of medicine through the Made for Medicine initiative, founded by CCS alumna Dr. Laura S.B. Bell. Made for Medicine aims to increase Black representation in the medical field by providing students with a pathway to medicine. Through hands-on learning simulations, students learned how to administer CPR properly, check a person's blood pressure, and how to maintain blood sugar levels. The Made for Medicine initiative continues to grow, now reaching CCS 4th and 5th graders with exciting opportunities to learn and explore careers in medicine. For more information, visit madeformedicine.org. Many thanks to Trevitt Elementary School, its principal, Dr. Keisha Fletcher Bates, and staff for hosting and supporting the Made for Medicine initiative to inspire the next generation of doctors. Congratulations to Carrie Plorty, Como Elementary School's dedicated school counselor, for receiving both the Elementary School Counselor of the Year and Best Overall Ohio School Counselor of the Year awards from the Ohio School Counselor Association. Through her leadership with the SOAR, Stay Safe, Ownership of Actions, Act Appropriately, Respect Others initiative, and her creation of safe, supportive spaces for students, Carrie has helped transform Como into a place where every student can thrive. Her leadership in emotional regulation has contributed to Como receiving a state gold medal award in PBIS, making her an invaluable part of our CCS community. Thank you, Carrie, for your remarkable impact and commitment to our students. These have been your highlights from around the district. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening and welcome to the November 6th regular business meeting of the Columbus City Schools Board of Education. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adair.
Present.
Ms. Ingles.
Present.
Mr. Simmons.
Present.
President Vera.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you all please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Colleagues, tonight we do have several guests for public comment, in addition to a few items under board matters. We will not have a report from our superintendent. We do have a report from our treasurer this evening. We do not have a report from our internal auditor. We do have a consent agenda items of 10.1 to 25.2. in addition to other legislation 26.1 to 26.3, and we do also have an executive session. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adair.
Yes.
Ms. Ingles.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
President Vera.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Welcome. All right, so before we jump right in, I do unfortunately have some sad news that I wanted to lift up this evening. You'll notice quite a few of our colleagues are not here, one being our superintendent. Over the weekend, we did lose 3 district staff members, and unfortunately, one of their funerals was tonight. And so our superintendent, along with a few other district team members, are there this evening at their funerals. And so we want to take a moment to pay our respects for Ms. Renee Dews, Mr. Richard McCormick, and Mr. James Armstrong. So if you'll just join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. As we are transitioning into public comment, I did notice this evening we have a lot of guests here from Independence High School, And before we start public comment, I just wanted to lift up, first off, want to say thank you to the staff of Independence for emailing your Board of Education. We were not aware of the growth that you had seen in your building, and we're happy to see the growth in your building, but recognizing with that growth, a lot came along with that. And so understanding that this unexpected growth has put a lot on you as staff and a lot on the students in that building, and knowing that our district has been working hard to figure out solutions, recognizing that it's reallocation, you know, these are things that we were not anticipating, but just wanting to say that we recognize. And I just want to say, when I had the opportunity to come and visit your building alongside of our superintendent, I was just amazed by what I saw. I saw hardworking teachers, staff, everybody in the building just doing the best that they can, and understanding that, you know, we are happy to see growth in your building, but we need to be able to figure out how do we support you and support our students ultimately. So thank you all, everybody in that building and everybody that's putting their arms around Independence right now, to see the growth in that area. We recognize that this is also going to impact other school buildings. And so growth is a good thing, but we need to be able to support that growth. And so we want to name that, and we want to, you know, obviously be able to talk about the opportunities and the strategies that the district is going to be able to do to support that growth. So before we start public comment, tonight we do have joining us Deputy Superintendent Catherine Moser. So Ms. Moser, if you don't mind, as many of our guests here tonight to speak are from Independence, do you have an update for our folks over at Independence?
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I did have the opportunity to stop at Independence this morning to check in on how things are going, and just want to extend my thanks for how welcoming you were, welcoming me into your classrooms. What I saw as well this morning are students who are happy to be in school. It's clear that your students are happy to be at Independence, and I saw staff engaging students in really meaningful instruction. Having said that, I also had an opportunity to hear from a number of staff members about challenges that continue to exist. I do want to share that Independence experienced an unprecedented influx of students, many of whom are Haitian Creole students, and this is similar to what we are seeing in some other cities in Ohio. At this time, we have closed enrollment at Independence, including for discipline transfers. We've added 3 teachers, 2 of whom have begun, and 1 additional teacher who is scheduled to begin by the end of the week. We've added administrative support to assist with the student transitions and provide additional support for classroom teachers. We did need to deliver additional classroom furniture and distribute computers within the building. But I think it's important, as you shared, that we should not expect that this is the only school where we will see an influx of students this year. Columbus Global Academy is full as of this week. West High School is looking like we will need to reallocate staff to add additional English learner services this year. And because we have closed enrollment at Independence, we should expect to need additional resources at Walnut Ridge High School as well. I just want to point out that the way that we are funded assumes that districts can predict and plan for shifts in enrollment. So changes after the start of the year actually require that we reallocate resources that already exist within the district. We certainly need to continue to prioritize the equitable alignment of resources to match our student needs, and we continue to work with our district, our city, and community partners to ensure that where we see a growing number of students and families in a neighborhood, that we work together to communicate that change and redirect available resources. But again, I just want to thank and send my appreciation to the staff at Independence High School, who continue to wrap your arms around our students and their families. I, too, thank you for your support of our students and your advocacy for our student needs.
Thank you, Ms. Moser. And this will be an ongoing process where we will have to work together. And, there's not one set solution here, and this is something that I feel like we are working together. And so thank you for that update. And more information can be expected, not only to this board, but to these school communities. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we will transition into public comment. Public comment is 3 minutes, so feel free to start whenever you approach the podium. As a reminder, before every board meeting, we do have board office hours, so between 5:15 and 5:45. If you wish to have just exchange or dialogue with board members, you are welcome to sign up, or even if you don't have time to sign up, you are also welcome to attend. So at this time, I will call up Amanda Holman, CCS librarian. Topic to be addressed, encouragement and accountability. Good evening, Ms. Holman.
This or just keep it here?
You could, just pull it down. There you go.
Good evening, President Vera, Vice President Dr. Pierce, Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. I'm speaking today not just as a staff member, but as a citizen and community member. First, let me begin by expressing my deep appreciation for the work that you all do. As the superintendent and school board, you carry an incredible responsibility, shaping the future of our children, guiding the direction of our schools, and supporting the educators who make a difference every day. Your dedication and service are not often affirmed enough, so tonight I want to say thank you. Thank you for your time, for your commitment, and for the care that you bring to the decisions that you make. The path that you walk is not always easy. You are balancing the needs of students, parents, teachers, and the community, all while managing budgets, policies, and state mandates, your personal and family needs as well. It's a heavy load, and I want to acknowledge that. In the face of the challenges that persist, we must continue to press forward. Now more than ever, our community and school district needs every leader to uphold and embody integrity, accountability, and transparency. These values are the foundation of trust, the trust that our community places in you to act in the best interests of every student in our district. When we talk about integrity, we're talking about holding ourselves to the highest ethical standards and making decisions not because they're easy or popular, but because they are right. Every choice that you make has a lasting impact, and that responsibility requires unwavering commitment to doing what is just and fair for all students. Accountability means standing by your decisions and actions, whether they bring praise or criticism. It's about being willing to listen, to learn, and to improve. Our community is watching, and they want to know that their voices are heard, that their concerns are heard, and that their leaders are willing to be held accountable for the outcomes that affect their children's education. Transparency is the cornerstone of building trust. Clear communication, open dialogue, and honest communication ensures that all stakeholders understand not just what decisions are being made, but why they're being made. Transparency fosters collaboration. It reminds everyone that we are working towards the same goal, the success and well-being of our students. In closing, my hope is that we cultivate a culture of unity and honor, recognizing that these values are not simply aspirational, they are achievable. But to see them reflected throughout our schools and community, we must first look inward. Let us therefore raise the standard to every member of our community, educators, school staff, leadership, families, and community members alike. By each of us exemplifying the qualities of accountability, transparency, and integrity, we build a culture for students that is rooted in mutual respect and genuine progress. Your work is critical. Your leadership is valued, and you have my support. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Holman. Next, we will hear from Kelsey Gray. Topic to be addressed, staffing at Independence High School. Good evening, Ms. Gray.
Good evening. President Vera and Board of Education. There have been a lot of district administrators in my classroom the past couple of weeks. And I would really like to stand here and say that they've been there to support, but it feels like they are there to intimidate and criticize. Today, for example, someone walked into my room, took pictures, and then just left while I was teaching. But it reminds me actually of when I first started in Columbus in the spring of 2022, when actually I first met President Vera. She, at the time, was a newly elected Board of Education member, and I was new to Columbus. I had just moved here from Denver. And because I taught seniors, well, she was speaking at our graduation that spring, and I taught seniors, and she had asked to come into my room to get to know them so she could deliver the appropriate commencement remarks. She stayed for several hours and sat with students, and she asked them questions about who they are, what they like, and their dreams for their future. Christina Vera is the only district adult that has ever come into my room in 4 years that's actually been there for the kids. In my opinion, Board President Vera makes decisions based on what's best for students because she truly cares about them. And I think she cares about the staff too. Those of you who are watching this streaming can't see this, but she was sitting with us when we walked in and talking with us. On October 17th, when every Board of Education member received 37 emails from IHS staff about our current conditions, she emailed every single one of us back. So did Jennifer Adair, and so did Sarah Ingalls. She was then in our school, President Vera, on Monday, the very next school day, to speak with staff and students. I want to point out that 4 other Board of Education members received those emails but did not respond to them. Michael Cole, who is not here tonight, I was particularly surprised by that silence because he spoke at our graduation last spring about our students' promise for bright futures. And I would think if those remarks were made wholeheartedly, you would have bothered to respond to at least one of us. The staff at Independence High School emailed you all because we are drowning and we weren't getting any help. We had pulled data from several different sources and realized that no other high school in the district is treated like us. The chain of communication in Region 2 is obviously broken, and we had no other choice. Writing to you was seriously our last chance. Since writing to you, several of us, including myself, have been brought into meetings with district administrators and interrogated, intimidated, and lied to. We have also had district administrators imply that we weren't doing our jobs well enough to get more support at our building. I just really wanted you to know that. Since October 17th, we've gained 1 ESL English teacher, 1 social studies teacher, and 1 administrator. We've also hired for our vacant band director position, but it's not enough. We need an additional ESL math teacher, a bilingual aide, an additional social worker. We need funding for this influx of students that we have just for supplies. An additional safety and security staff member, and more allocations for next year, and an additional instructional assistant. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Hallie Shaw. Topic to be addressed, educational inequities in Columbus City Schools. Good evening, Ms. Shaw.
Board members, Superintendent Chapman, and the CCS community at large. Today I stand before you to discuss the consistent inequities that are present at CCS as specific to Independence High School. I've worked at Independence for 3 years now, and this year has been one that truly begs the question how the board believes that they are providing an equitable education across CCS because Independence, a school with currently 872 students consistently showing up, is neglected. As of November 4th, Independence teachers are trying to serve 872 students with 42 teachers. For comparison, Centennial has 42 teachers, yet 170 less students. Walnut Ridge, a school in our region, has 44 teachers, yet 72 less students. This is seen across the board. IHS has the highest student-to-teacher ratio. Independence admin tried to manage the situation since the administration above us ignored their pleas by creating academic assist so that teachers could have contractually accurate class sizes. This solution, however, has resulted in 134 students being taken out of educational opportunities to sit in study halls because the district's inability to staff schools correctly. Since my first year here, the incidence of behavior have also increased. This is due to the number of students that are being enrolled into independence without any additional support, resulting in an unsafe environment for admin, teachers, and students. The 68% increase in the last 3 years in behavior incidences are directly impacting our students' ability to learn safely in our school. My students deserve to have an additional 5 teachers on top of the 3 that you've already given, additional safety and security officers that are full-time, another school social worker, an additional school counselor, and even aides to help the ESL and IEP population that is constantly growing. It has been easy for you guys to ignore us and even go as far as passing the issue along to someone else until it falls back onto us not doing enough. But today I stand before you letting you know that the neglect of the right of education that is happening to all 872 students at Independence High School falls solely on the administration at CCS, including the Board of Education and the various superintendents meant to support our students. While I expect you to do better, my students definitely need you to do better.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Tracy Johnson. Topic to be addressed, equity across the district. Good evening, Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, President Vera, Vice President Dr. Pierce, Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. My name is Tracy Johnson, and I am a proud CCS educator of 13 years. I stand before you not only as an educator, but as a concerned parent and homeowner in CCS. Today, I want to address the glaring inequities in staffing across the district. Independence High School welcomed more students this year, and data has shown that a different high school that has 300 fewer students than us has the same number of staff that we do. At another high school with about the same enrollment, they have 12 more teachers than us. Now, I can only speak to the numbers, but I cannot speak to what different programs they have at those schools. But as a teacher who is feeling more burned out, the kind of burned out right before spring break and you need a vacation, I can't help but feel slighted. This disparity is a significant failure to meet the needs of our students. We were grateful for Count Week as we assumed that we would get some relief, but none came. It was only after we emailed you all October 17th that our voices were finally heard. And this is embarrassing, not just for us, but for the board and whoever is in charge of watching our numbers. This was only after, so we closed enrollment October 28th. This was after 19 teachers were teaching more than their contractual 150 students. This was after more than half of the teachers had over 34 students coming to class. We have one teacher who has 44 students coming consistently to class. It's the board's responsibility to watch us and to provide equitable staffing across the district. And somebody dropped the ball. And things must change. You must do better. It's disheartening to see our students in classrooms exceeding 40 students. I cannot imagine how my child, who is sitting back there, would be told to sit on the floor to learn in a class, but not because of a lack of furniture. Some of us are being gaslit into believing we are not doing enough in spite of the challenges we face, such as larger class sizes that include behavioral, learning, and language differences. More students should equal more staffing across the board. Our safety and security team is stretched thin, running tirelessly throughout the building to make it safe. Our social worker, by herself, is overwhelmed when she is dealing with the increase of needs from students who are experiencing homelessness to students who are experiencing thoughts of suicide. When she is dealing with one issue, 2 more are likely waiting for her. It is crucial for the board to take immediate action. More students should mean more staff across the board, not just teachers, not just admin. Our students have been coming to school. Our teachers are trying to come to school. Please help our students succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next, we will hear from Courtney Bryant. Topic to be addressed, equity in classroom sizes. Good evening, Ms. Bryant.
A little bit taller than her. Good evening, everyone. My name is Courtney Bryant. Good evening, President Vera, Vice President Dr. Pierce, Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. Like you heard, my name is Miss Bryant. I'm a 25-year veteran ESL teacher in Columbus City Schools. I've been at Independence High School for 8 years. I started the program there. There was no ESL, second language learner program there. And I really prided myself on building a program that supported students not only academically but emotionally, as a lot of those students come as students who have never been educated before, who aren't literate in their language, who have crossed borders, in trucks and been hidden. And we all know what's going on with the Haitian Creole population coming here too, and the trauma that they're going through now with some of the political rhetoric. So I really built a program that I thought supported not only mainstream teachers and giving them support that they need and supporting the students, but we know across the district that right now Columbus City Schools has the highest number of second language learners that they've seen, and it has increased every year at Independence as well. So I've left for 2 years to be an instructional coach at Global. When I came back, I have seen a complete change, not only academically, but in behaviors. And of course, in my classroom, I have students that are pre-functional, no language skills, but also I have some students who are sitting at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade reading levels who can pass the OST. But when I have 44 students in a room, it's just not fair to me. It's not fair to them. And we did get some relief with an English teacher, second ESL English teacher. She's never taught before, which is, I don't think, fair to her or the students. But she's doing her best, and she has a great attitude. And I just think the support that we really need is, which was mentioned before, is another math teacher, another bilingual instructional assistant that speaks Spanish or that can speak Haitian Creole. And, you know, I think our teachers are already under so much pressure, and to have students in there who I can't serve because I'm literally full, and then they are feeling the pressure to service these students and don't have all the support and strategies that they need to support these students. But I really see my team, ESL team, each of them have come to me individually saying, I don't know if I can keep doing this. To come to school and open an email that says, be careful today. Some of our teachers were threatened and assaulted is traumatizing for teachers. And on Friday, I had a student who said to me, I don't know if I can keep coming here. All there is fighting here. And that's an honest truth, like testimony that she's told me. So I just think teachers are traumatized, students are traumatized, and I think we just need so much more support. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Next, we will hear from Austin Owens. Topic to be addressed, Board Policy 5610, 5610.03, update board policy. Good evening, Mr. Owens.
Good evening, President Vera, Vice President Dr. Pierce, good to see you. Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and Ms. Merson, and members of the board. So first of all, I do want to thank you guys. We emailed you on a Friday. You came on a Monday. That's the fastest I've ever seen anything happen in this district. And I went here, teach here, and I have a daughter here. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to be talking about something a little different, but I do stand in solidarity with my coworkers here. But it's a part of the problem. So, question for you. What does zero tolerance mean? As according to Board Policy 5600, what does strictly prohibited and will not be tolerated mean as according to Board Policy 5517.01? If a student commits a violent act, that student should be removed immediately, not to return to the building where they committed the act. They are entitled to an education, but it should not be in the same environment that they came from. They chose to remove themselves from that environment by virtue of their actions. The damage comes in the form of optics and accountability. Why should students act accordingly when they know all that's going to happen is that they're going to get 10 days and they'll be right back, causing stress to the students who just want an education, a normal high school experience? The Student Guide to Success states that students have a personal responsibility to behave in a way that does not disrupt the educational process or lead to physical or emotional harm. That students have a right to expect that the school they attend will be a safe place. But how can this be true when the person who beat me up will be back in 10 days? How can I feel safe as a student if I know my attacker is going to return? How can they learn if they're scared? The request is that we allow our schools to be safer by adhering to the letter of the policy, which is zero tolerance. Our students are begging for an environment where they can be kids, where they can learn and be safe to do both. We know that school can sometimes be the safest alternative for our students and an escape from turbulent and violent home lives. Applying a zero tolerance standard towards violence pursuant to Board Policy 5610, 5610.03 should be the minimum. And I'm going to read this policy here, but there's more nuance to it. But the policy currently states that if a student commits an act in school or other school property in an interscholastic competition, extracurricular event, or any other school program or activity, and the act, A, would be a criminal offense if committed by an adult, and this is a burdensome language I'm going to ask you to check, results in serious physical harm to persons as defined in Revised Code 290101. I would ask that you change the burdensome language from and to or. Safety must be paramount, and it cannot be beholden to sudden student death or dismemberment, as is essentially the requirement for severe or serious physical harm. This behavior is not taught nor reinforced in school. We also need to hold our parents accountable for the actions of our students. I say this as a parent. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. I say this as a parent who has been in behavior meetings in school, school administrators, and a student who was in a couple of them myself. I'm not perfect, but I'm getting better. It should be a mandate that the parents are making sure their students receive the necessary behavioral help that they need to be able to acclimate to the school environment and society. The law states that students removed from their current school placement, as written in 34 CFR 300-530, receive as appropriate a functional behavior assessment, a behavioral intervention services and modifications that are designed to address the behavior violation so that it does not recur. Is this happening? Let us use our facilities that we have. We have an online academy to allow students to receive an education while they receive the behavior assistance they need to self-regulate. The request is that a facility be created or repurposed for these students that have a tendency to roam the halls and cause disruptions because they are begging for an education, but not like this. Kids cry, it just sounds different when they're older. Pursuant to Board Policy 2451, Alternative School Plans and Programs, the board does recognize that a regular school program may not be appropriate for all students and that certain students may need special programs to help them overcome attendance, academic, or behavioral programs. So we already know this is a problem, and we can fix it. We can fix it. We have a world-class career tech department that has helped our students achieve outcomes that traditional academic classes cannot, not because our academic programs are not world-class, but because some people learn different. If teachers are required to differentiate in the classroom, why are we not differentiating in a district? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. And I do want to highlight Board Member Ingalls, if we can connect with Mr. Owens. I know you have a board policy and governance meeting on December the 9th, and I would definitely like to add these policies to be reviewed. So thank you, Mr. Owens. At this time, we will call Gary Bass. Topic to be addressed, concerns at Mifflin Middle School. Good evening, Mr. Bass.
My real concern is her safety, because this is the third time that she's been in a fight with some kids, and it's getting just worse and worse and worse. I mean, they're doing what they want to do. I pull up to the school, and there's kids running around outside the school. I believe that day they had a level 2 lockdown or something, and I get to the school, and there's kids running around that don't even go to the school. And then when you go inside and you talk to so-called security, right, and you only got 3, but then there's what, 4 floors there, so it's like there's no way they're doing anything. And every time I turn around, my daughter's getting abused. I have to take her to the hospital to get her eye fixed. There's another child that got in the same incident. Her ear got half tore off. I mean, this is ridiculous. And then when you talk to staff members, you you don't get in between the doors. There's a thing in between the doors, and I'm stuck in between the door. I can't talk to a principal. I can't talk to a vice principal. I can't talk to a counselor. And you suspend my child. I don't know anything about this. I come to pick her up from school. Oh, Daddy, I've been suspended. Huh? You know, where's the phone call? And then it's like, what happened? I get 3 different stories about what happened, and then you look on the internet, and they're showing these kids fighting. And this fighting is every day in that school. Every day. Every day. I mean, they need a better security team. If you guys don't have one, I'll volunteer. You know, I'll volunteer. I'll go in there. I'll help clean that up, man. I mean, this is just, I just want my baby to be safe. I'm afraid. Today, I went to school. And I was afraid for my child. She said, oh, don't worry about it. She'll be okay. No, she's not okay. Dad's not okay. Yeah. You know, I'm an old man, and I shouldn't have to go through this. I went to that school as a child, and we didn't have these problems. We didn't have that. It was a difference. And it's today, I don't know what's going on. But somebody needs to go in there and tighten up that security team. They need more than just 3 people in there. They need more people in there to teach or do whatever to watch these kids, because there is no way that she can get beat up like this. And then she's not going to get beat up. She's not going to just be a punching bag. So I don't know what else to do right now. I mean, I'm stuck as a parent. What do I do? What do I do? I mean, I don't know whether to send her to school tomorrow or to leave her at home. I mean, because I feel for her safety. And I shouldn't have to do that. Look at her. She's 13 years old. What do I do? I mean, that's where I'm at. What do I do now? I'm asking the question now. What do I do? Where am I at?
Ms. Moser, do you have somebody here that can connect with?
I really need to get something done about this, because it's horrible.
Mr. Grubbs, can you please come to the? So, Mr. Bass, I'm going to connect you right over here with Mr. Grubbs.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to hear this is unacceptable, and you should be able to go to school, and you shouldn't have to feel like you have to fight every day.
Every day.
So I understand as a parent, you know, that's not something you want to feel, and so it's not acceptable. So thank you for being here and sharing, you know, your experience, because it's not acceptable, and we need to do better. So Mr. Grubbs, if you don't mind, I'm talking with Mr. Bass, and if young lady, if you don't mind going with Mr. Bass or Mr. Grubbs as well, just so you can share. Thank you, sir, for being here. All right, so we have Curtis Posey, topic to be addressed, teacher staffing. Good evening, Mr. Posey.
Good evening, board members. My name is Curtis Posey. I've been working at Independence for 13 years as an art teacher there. Before teaching, I was an interior designer, so I decided to share my knowledge and mentor students. So that's kind of how I got into teaching. We have been understaffed with art teachers since I've been there. I've been the only art teacher most of my time there. We've had 2 art teachers in 3 years out of the 13. But when the art teacher left in 2022, the allocation was unfilled and for 2 years, and then was removed after that point. As the only art teacher in the building, I am one of the few options for an elective class for students. I have never had enough supplies for my art classes. For example, I've had to pay out of my pocket for artwork to be framed. Being able to have the opportunity to display the students' artwork for competitions or the community should not be coming out of my pocket. Being the only art teacher, I am forced to teach Art 2 and Art 3, which has just taken place this year, together in the same classroom. This is chaotic because the students aren't on the same level, and we talk about differentiating. The advanced courses for the students have been very hard to place the students because they can't thrive in this environment because you're going back and forth. Let's see. The advanced, when students are stifled with their potential growth because of this, which also with the increased enrollment, there are no consistencies for the students and myself in the classroom. I'm sorry. Right. With this unprecedented increase in enrollment and ESL population, there are multiple languages in my classroom. I have no assistants in the class. With a class of 35 or more, depending, adds more language barriers to take away from my time teaching the students than ever. Helping students with the classwork takes at least twice as long, which sets back students' achievement now more than ever. I don't have the supplies or the space to help fulfill, and students are coming, and that's been the problem for all of us. I'm not missing students at all, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Posey. Next, we will hear from President Nana Watson. Topic to be addressed, Business and Operation Legislation 14.6. Why does the district continue to order materials and supplies from out of state? Good evening, President Watson.
Good evening, Board President Vera, board members, and Deputy Superintendent. The NAACP is here to give you kudos for just a few minutes. Not always. We don't do that. You know that. The NAACP would like to thank Board Member Ingalls for arranging a meeting with the auditor to discuss the cooperative purchasing agreement. We appreciate his initiative, input, and willingness to explore potential improvements in utilizing cooperative purchasing agreements to support diversity and inclusion. We also like to thank Board President for introducing the NAACP to the new treasurer, and we thank him for his insight, and now we really know what his function is. Now, after all those kudos, let me just move on. As we reviewed the agenda, we noted the upcoming vote on contracts awarded to Narden Brothers Baking for paper trays and Zimmerman for curtains. Both of these companies currently lack LEDE participation. Could you please share how the board and administration are collaborating to engage LEDE vendors, outreach efforts? I want to know how you're going to collaborate with LED vendors and what outreach efforts are in place to include them in future bidding opportunities. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Watson. Next, we will hear from Molly Wood. Topic to be addressed, special education concerns. Good evening, Ms. Wood.
Good evening, Board of Education, Deputy Superintendent Mosier, and administration. This will be shorter than normal because at this point, I don't have a lot to say other than I'm still here, which today, that is an accomplishment. I'm not here to, thank you. I'm not here to reiterate laws that are being broken because I think we are all well aware of what is going on in special education right now. But I am still here to advocate for what all of us deserve, what our families deserve, what our students deserve, and what our staff deserve. Within the last week, we've gotten another involuntary transfer to cover our third SLC classroom and an additional assistant. We do truly appreciate that because we are in desperate need of help. However, both of these people have never worked in a special ed classroom before. So myself, along with the other SLC teacher and veteran IAs, are doing our best to support, but we can only do so much with the excessive needs in our own classrooms. With the new unified arts schedule that we are being directed to follow, there is no time during the day to meet the needs of our own students, let alone an additional classroom. We do not get any breaks throughout the day to plan, create materials, hold meetings, IEPs, ETRs, FBAs, BIPs, to attend TBT meetings, clean, sit in silence, decompress, nothing. Sometimes we are able to get a 30-minute lunch break. We spend hours before and after work in our classrooms attempting to reflect, decompress, and recover from the day. Then we try to figure out how we are going to do it all over again the following day with little to no support. This is not teaching, this is surviving. I'm still in contact with many teachers across the district, and we talk regularly about classrooms and how things are going. It is so disheartening to see and to hear all of the stories from not only involuntary transfers, but veteran SPED teachers. It is only November 6th, and we are all physically, mentally, emotionally exhausted. We are done. Additional concerns from teachers. Students made zero progress on their IEP goals throughout the first quarter and have regressed tremendously. Student behaviors have increased because of the continuous chaos in these classrooms. Staff continuously getting hurt, students continuously getting hurt. Teachers not being able to effectively communicate anymore due to Senate Bill 29. That it's impossible with ELLs and with our special ed families that we are very close with. Schedules that are impossible to follow and allow for zero breaks. Mental health of staff. The amount of people I have talked with that have had mental breakdowns already this year is alarming. Teachers do not know how they're going to make it through the day, let alone how they will make it through the rest of this year. This year has been extremely difficult for all, but especially for us SPED folks down in the trenches all day, every day. Burnout is real, and if this year continues like this, I fear that we will have zero staff remaining by the end of this year. Working with these types of students is what we chose to do, at least some of us, not the involuntary transfers. We love these babies like they are our own. It breaks my heart that so many of us are contemplating leaving the district and even education altogether. Something has got to change. Thank you.
Miss Wood, I don't know if she can hear me. Miss Wood, I want to thank you for your continued advocacy. We hear you and we see you and we recognize there's a lot to be done there. And so just know that the board is asking. We are asking questions. And so just want to say we see you, we hear you, and we hear everybody in special education right now who's working so hard and doing everything they possibly can. I know it's not enough, it doesn't fix it, but just know that we hear you for sure. So thank you. Okay, colleagues, at this time, we will transition into item 4.1 under board matters, legislative platform presentation, which I will hand it over to my colleague, Board Member Cole. And board members, if you remember, while my colleague is getting that set up, last board meeting, Board Member Cole, as the chair of the Community Engagement and Advocacy Committee, talked about the legislative platform that came before our committee, and the presentation is in board docs, Board Member Cole. And so tonight we'll be able to look over the presentation and then ultimately offer a motion to review.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have it pulled up as of yet. We'll get it. I thought I would have a printed out talking point piece. Again, this is not it.
Okay, that's the old one.
Thank
Is that
you.
what you're looking for?
Yes.
It's right here. Ramona is using it.
Oh,
as
this,
a,
oh, this is what she
She's in your
Thank you.
sorting.
I know, I just.
I'm like, it is print. You know, Lydia is on top of things.
No, you good. You good.
It's okay.
You good.
It's been a long, what day is it?
It has. It has been an incredibly long day. I thank
Do we
you.
need a recess? Do we need a 5-minute breather?
No, I think
This is already a heavy meeting.
we're good to go.
All right, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Madam President. Colleagues, this is the opportunity for us this evening to take a look at our legislative platform and become more aware of what it is and subsequently approve it. I'll begin by starting with what is a preamble. As you can see, it identifies what our purpose is exactly and what we publicly state as such. We then walk into our legislative values, and I'll walk through all 5 of those so you hear them clearly. Columbus City Schools seeks opportunities to engage and collaborate with policymakers in areas aligned with the Board of Education's goals and guardrails and the district's strategic plan. Number 2, This is a strong voice for student diversity and inclusion. So again, these are kind of what you would look at or think of as the guiding principles, if you will, of the why of this platform and of this committee. Engages state policies that provide deference to local decision-making. So again, we value the opportunity and idea that the state has appropriated the opportunity for school boards to have boards of educators, directors on this Board of Education who are prepared to make decisions for public school districts. Collaborates with policymakers to find more equitable solutions to school funding. This is probably the number one issue that we are looking to attack collaboratively on a daily basis outside of what happens in a school building or throughout the district. We are fundamentally hardcore centered on the idea that we need a fair funding model that is sustainable, not just per biennial budget. We're required for a 5-year forecast. The biennial budget only takes care of 2 years of a budget. We want to see something different. Alignment to OSBA legislative platform. So many of you all are aware of our relationship with the Ohio School Board Association. That is our state association that represents us. We are aligned to that platform very strongly. We've done work as not only leaders, not only members, but as leaders within this organization as well. I'm asking that we're aligned to that platform. In terms of legislative priorities, there are 6. Fully fund the Fair School Funding Plan, fund innovative workforce development and career readiness programs to meet the needs of an evolving Columbus, develop a more equitable approach when requiring public school districts to transport students attending community schools and chartered non-public schools. Had a wonderful conversation and presentation on transportation just the other day. Allocate funding for Grow Your Own Teacher Pipeline initiatives. So to our teachers who just left, this is something that we have extreme dedication to and want to centrally focus on how do we not only grow our talent pipeline, but increase their capacity in their respective roles. And protect the education rights of all children and families served by the district, expand the opportunities for children to attend publicly funded preschool. We've done a wonderful job, this administration, this board, my colleagues, as expanding the pre-K program, going to our taxpayers, our families in the community, and asking them to help us be able to afford those costs. But we need that talent, and we need them developed, and we want state appropriation to be able to support us doing that. Given this, I do ask for the support of this legislative agenda. If there are any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them. Is there a second?
That is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any objections? Discussions? Seeing none.
I thank you. Thank you all.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingalls?
Abstain.
Vice President Dr. Pierce? Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So, colleagues, we will move into item 4.2, our conference updates, which I will hand it over to Board Member Reyes and Board Member Cole once again. And I do believe there's a presentation in the back as well.
Yep, there should be. Is everyone, are they going to put it up?
Yes, they are.
It's on one.
It's up to your
TV.
left.
Right now.
Having some technological difficulty.
Lord.
There it is. We
All
got
right.
it. We're making progress.
If it's okay, I'll begin. So this is a presentation on our professional development update. If we can go to the next page, next slide. That is not the next slide, but we attended the Leading Innovation and Transformation Fall Conference. It's actually the 68th annual conference of the Council of the Great City Schools. We have been a long-time member of this organization. that has provided some significant work and support in our efforts to improve student outcomes and strengthen our board governance and do a myriad of things that we're focused on centrally. We attended this conference in Dallas, Texas, on October 16th through the 20th. Those who attended this conference were myself, Board Member Reyes, Dr. Corey Grubbs, Dr. Chapman, Michael Sain, and Carl Williams. We all had the opportunity to partake in any myriad of activities there. But let's get into that. Next slide. Next slide. Now, staying in the know space, and I'll share this opportunity with Board Member Reyes as well. But staying in the know space, we had the opportunity to attend quite a number of sessions. For those who don't really understand how conference work actually occurs, how this follows, we attend these conferences from literally can't see in the morning till can't see at night. It is an opportunity for us to go through session after session, hear speaker after speaker. There's a great deal of work, note-taking, questions, a lot of interface and interaction taking place at these conferences. This is not a time, they give us time for leisure, they give us time to come together and get to know each other and cultivate relationship. But you spend most of the time there, literally, in a session, learning. With that, we had the opportunity to be focused on discussions around global engagement and communications. The District of Columbia School District, Washington, D.C., did a presentation on how they actually leverage their engagement, not just from a local perspective, but outside of the country itself. How do they attract talent, attract opportunities and programs, and possibly even better service students within their district with a global focus? I think because of the number of languages we speak in this district, over 100, because of the emerging enclave of individuals who come to this community, who come to this district, we have a very unique opportunity to grow our space in visibility and relationship globally. In fact, our mission statement says that we're preparing students to be globally competitive. With that, student outcomes focused governance was another piece. We had a number of opportunities to see school districts, several, speak to how they have customized SOFG to use it their way, but still fall within the framework, but just adjust and tweak it in a way that worked for their school districts. Aurora School District was an interesting one where we saw it happen, and they also kept in good line and step with student outcomes, making sure they made the time available at the board table to have these kind of discussions for the monitoring purpose. I'm going to stop here and hand the mic to you.
So some of the ones that are not up there that privileged to attend, the Task Force for Black and Latino Young Women and Girls and Black and Latino Young Men and Boys. Having a girl-focused school and girl-focused and male-focused schools was really interesting. Some of the work that Nevada is doing, Texas and Nevada are doing, they actually are combining private and public and government funds to fund and research best practices for girl-focused all schools from K to 12. They've expanded within the Texas region. They have over 25 schools showing the success of gender-specific schools and the advantage of having additional funding from other sources other than just public schools. They're looking at, they expanded into Nevada, and they're actually interested in expanding to other areas of the United States. So have that information, have provided that to Dr. Chapman to look at, are there other ways of being able to fund our district? Attended a few workshops for English language learners and bilingual education as that continues to grow. Some of these sessions provided PowerPoints, others I have a lot of pictures that I'm trying to filter through, and at the end of the week I actually didn't have any more space. But just a lot of great things that's going. One of the two of the things I wanted to mention is there was a using equity-driven approaches to spice up leadership training in urban schools. Indianapolis schools, just right next door to us, actually took a 3-year path in looking at how they can do equity in a regional approach. Went out to the community, had community input, and sat down and looked at how can, because this targeted transportation, this targeted having all subjects, all schools. They were also in a budget crunch. And alongside with the community, talked about if we develop these regional approaches where everything's offered in this region, everything's offered in this region, everything's offered in this region. They both, I had a kind of like a little aha moment because we've been doing this for a while, and I was sharing this, and I reason like at President Rivera because I was sharing this with her, they're looking at both not only equity in a sense, but also looking at driving neighborhood schools, right? So what they heard from their community was, we still want to have the community school thing, but we still want to have choice, right? So they said, okay, well, you have these 3 high schools in your region that offer everything. Pick from these 3 high schools. You'll still be able to have the neighborhood feel because it's that region. So it was very interesting to see. And I think they're just right next door. I think it's a good thing for us to go out and look at. Another topic, which I was very happy that this vendor was actually looking and working with us, keeping teachers in urban schools by addressing burnout. It's interesting that was something that was talked to us today. Just some of the strategies and resources that educators or districts are doing, understanding what's going on in urban districts with growth and limited resources, and how they can bring in different strategies to help our teachers, right? Really teacher focused, which is very interesting. And I'll end with one of the other ones. They were all very interesting, but these are the 3 that were really giving me excitement. How urban school districts are raising the volume of student voices. Heard from Palm Beach, heard from Nashville, heard from Denver, and how they're actually have created a whole goal and strategy around student voices. And actually Palm Beach has a playbook on how they did that. But one of the things that they did was they created these student voice groups, and then they went out, did focus groups. Palm Beach in specific went out and targeted mental health. And these students decided not to only do it for students, they did it for students, staff, and parents. So they went out, did a survey, had little focus groups, and then they came back and they built a strategy on how they were going to address that in their school and bringing, seeing what those issues are. And the reason they came out with a playbook is they start talking about who would be their advisor, how do you make that selection, again, student driven. So it was just very interesting to hear the different strategies that different organizations and districts are doing around the country. It's that are in similar regions like us, same demographics, struggling through the same issues. So I have a whole plethora of presentations and pictures that I'm trying to figure out how to share with everybody.
I'm in the same space, have quite a number of photos that I took of presentations that we'll figure out how to get in the space where we can all see and look at it. I want to say maybe the 2 things I'll close with before I move to the next few slides very quickly is, 1, affordable housing. San Diego did an awesome job in looking at the assets that they had available and how do they close affordable housing gaps for their employees. So they've actually found a finance product. They've actually worked with their local government to identify land and even one of their schools as a space for affordable housing. And these vignettes that they put together were actually quite quality. I mean, these are some things that we see right now in our own city, right downtown or in the neighboring neighborhoods that were just phenomenal opportunities. When I question, what are we thinking about? What are you guys thinking about in consideration for providing this type of housing for students? I said, we service the whole child in our school district. How do we do this for kids? The challenge was the poverty rate. The challenge was the affordability of the poverty rate. All of us know that affordable housing has a government designation, particularly here locally via our county, but really affordable housing is what you can afford. Affordable housing is what market rate is and how well you can get close, how close you can get to affording that market rate, whether it's subsidized support or fully out of your pocket. But I think this is an opportunity, at least from an employee standpoint, to see where there may be opportunities for that with our certified and or classified employees. In addition to that, I think there's a grand opportunity. We have local partners here that we could discuss affordable housing for our children. We have a 30% mobility issue in this district that impacts chronic absence in this district. I think it's time for us to really take a serious look at these kind of opportunities for our children and also for our employees. I had the opportunity to sit through the annual report session with the executive committee. Great deal of work there. I think those annual reports are in the bags that I brought back for you all to have. As we talk about very quickly things that we're bringing home in terms of understanding challenges. The first is the accelerated growth of ESL, New American Student Enrollment. We know across the country, our districts are becoming older. Our country is becoming older, but our districts, our cities are becoming browner and blacker. They're becoming more populated with people of color. They are, and come from myriad backgrounds that aren't always the traditional student. We've seen significant declines across the country. The annual report refers to this in terms of traditional student decline in enrollment. School culture and climate were issues. School transportation, an issue. Oakland automated a fair portion of their buses. They're looking at AI buses. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I will share that presentation with you. Special education, of course, and board governance and student outcomes. Now, takeaways in terms of solutions. The last page, as you see, are community resources. How do we first reimagine our assets? I'm excited to be working with my colleague, Jennifer Adair.
Forgot my name.
Been a long day. He's excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I'm glad to be working with Jennifer Adair and the committee on this work. We're doing some outstanding stuff there, beginning this conversation, doing the same with Dr. Pierce. Modernize and monetize. We are in a position to, in the reimagined space, think about how we modernize our spaces, whether they're old or new. It does not always mean we have to build something new. Europe is full of old buildings with modern utilities. So I think there's a unique opportunity here to not only look at what we build new in the future, but what we give greater use of, greater utilization by modernizing our older spaces. Connect and serve, police protect and serve, school districts connect and serve, as well as protect. But the idea here is connect with local resources that actually make sense for us in a way to provide solutions and close gaps for things that occur for our families and children outside of our four walls, and then monitor for success. With that in mind, we want to include in that as well student voices. How do we incorporate the voices of young people in our process? We did that in part. Part of that's going to be a presentation upcoming in my committee next week, where we're going to actually discuss the feedback that we got from students in an engagement piece that engagement and communications put on, not just a few months ago. So with that, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to attend this conference. I encourage you all, please, this is our opportunity to grow. I think we get worse optics for not knowing. People without knowledge will perish. I think that we should put ourselves in a position in partnerships like this to attend these conferences and learn and come back. It also gives us greater scope to attack. It's just she and I going to these things. And they have a whole bunch of things that we could have went to, but we have to be strategic. So please, I encourage us all to take advantage of these partnerships that we have and attend these conferences. Thank you, Madam President.
The only thing I would add, Madam President, is just that we tried to split up so that we could attend at least one or two sessions that covered some of the committee work that we're doing to try to gather information for our colleagues for that, again, dividing and conquering. Though I know that Mr. Sane and Dr. Chapman and I think it's Corey, you said Carl.
I said Carl as well, and I said Dr. Corey Grubbs.
Corey Grubbs was also there, so that they have data that they've brought back. But I think that one of the biggest takeaways, and we've talked about it as a board, is how do we bring our community partners to help us do some of these initiatives, right? So what I heard throughout the 3-day conference, 3.5-day, 4-day conference, I can't remember now, because there was a lot of information, is how creative some districts are getting. When he's talking about teacher housing, I went to a similar session. The district actually went out and talked to realtors and other partners to talk about reduced rents because they were having problems recruiting people into the inner city, teachers to teach in the inner city. So working with real estate agents and owners of apartments complexes, being able to lower rent for teachers if they chose to teach in the urban school throughout that year. They talked about it was a direct assistance to the district, but what they also felt was it built a community amongst the teachers, right? Because they were in the community, they were around the students, they were around the parents, you know. One of us asked, why I asked, it's like, how do you then get away from work if you're in there? But they said that a lot of the feedback was they were able to connect in a different way outside of school. It was just different for them, but it took a little bit of time. So just looking and seeing how, and we've talked about that also, how do we bring our community in to help us, because we can't do this work alone. So it just those creative ways of how other districts, similar in size, similar in population and demographics, are doing the things that we want to do. They've already done them. So how can we get that best practice? And they're giving us that whole presentation in 20 minutes and then hanging around while we're trying to get PowerPoints, and I see Mr. Sane out there, PowerPoints, but still have enough time to run across to the other floor to go to the next session. But I will say it was really good this year. I always love Council of Great City Schools, just the information, the plethora of information. We're going to continue. We did write to some of the presenters to see if they could send us their PowerPoints because they weren't available. If those of you have gone, sometimes they say, look at the app, and it's not there. So we're still trying to gather some. So we're really, really excited. I did not go to a treasurer, so I do apologize that I didn't go to treasurer.
I did.
But I know that you have a lot of background on that. So thank you for indulging.
Well, thank you. Thank you both for going and representing us and coming back with a lot of great information. And I know we all look forward to getting whatever pieces of presentation you have, but some of them definitely I know I have interest in, so thank you. And just as a note, I know the OSBA conference is coming up too, and a few of us are also signed up. That is a local conference, and so I think that's like in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's this weekend. Okay, I'm like, it's coming up. So yeah, yep. Okay, so the November 9th through the 12th. And so that will be another opportunity for us to learn and grow and connect with a lot of individuals. So I am looking forward to that, and we certainly will have updates on that as well. So with that, before I transition and hand it over to our treasurer for our 5-year forecast, I did just want to provide a quick update really quickly. Last week, a few of my colleagues and I had an opportunity to set out on the school community tour. And as you remember, back in August, the board had made a commitment to spend some additional time doing some research around the superintendent's task force recommendations. And so, you know, we've been able to put some of this work in board committees. We've also been able to bring in some local and outside support help. And so last week, Board Member Adair, Board Member Ingalls, myself, and Board Member Cole had the opportunity to visit all 9 school communities. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you to those school communities for bringing us the opportunity to learn more about what makes your school so special. It was a great opportunity to learn firsthand, to see firsthand. So I just wanted to take a moment to highlight that we did go out and visit these buildings, school communities last week. I also wanted to thank Dr. Green for his support in helping us to create the tool. And going out to those school communities, just to be able to have had that tool with us was so valuable. So I'm really grateful that we were able to work alongside of him and having that. I want to thank all of my colleagues. You know, this is a work that we are doing together. Some things to be looking for our community. We are working on an FAQ page that should be live here in the next few days, where there'll be some additional information, what the board has done up until this point, some additional information, in addition to a special meeting that will be on November the 14th. And that meeting will be held here at 3700 at 6 p.m. So there won't be any action taken at that meeting, but as colleagues, we will have an opportunity to come together to debrief on what we saw during those visits. And so certainly it is open to the public if you want to come and, you know, listen, if you want to be able to provide feedback or insight, certainly you are welcome to attend. So just wanted to provide that really quickly. Catherine, do you have any other updates for us from Dr. Chapman?
No, thank you.
Okay, perfect. And then internal auditor, do you have any updates for us?
No updates, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Did you have something, Board Member
Just
Cole?
very
Yeah,
quickly.
go ahead.
For those who did not get the opportunity to attend, I do encourage you to take the steps to attend these 9 buildings. I think that there's a wealth of information to be shared. I've requested that some additional things be made available for us to review in this process. But I really, really encourage you, those who didn't have a chance to make it, to visit these schools, talk to some of the staff, see what's going on in the facilities, and learn a couple of lessons about how resilient and enduring our staff and students are, but at the same time, any number of challenges that they have to face in a working day in our buildings as well. So thank you, Madam President.
Yes, and during the 14th, we'll be able to have a very robust conversation. So even for my colleagues who were not able or won't be able to, certainly it would be an opportunity for us to share and just provide you our experience, and certainly we can get questions answered for you as well. So at this time, Treasurer Cook, I know you've been waiting for this moment.
Oh, good.
So I hand it over to you, Treasurer Cook.
Okay, good. They're loading the presentation. To set the stage, this is really our first 5-year forecast post-ESSER. So I put a couple cliff bars at everybody's seat tonight for you, and that represents kind of the fiscal cliff. We've all heard that term over the last 4 years with the ESSER funds that we've had. We're here. So this is now our first look at where we're at fiscally as a district. You can also go ahead and eat one of those if you have any questions. That way you won't ask. Okay, before we get to the numbers, a forecast is somewhat like a painting of the future based on what we know today. I would encourage you to think about that and have that mindset as we move through this tonight. Our office compiles this. We've been working on it now for a couple months, and it's based on what we know today. It's viewed as a key management tool, and it should be updated periodically. We, by law, are required to present this in November, by the end of November, for submission to due, and then again in May. So we're legally required to update it twice a year. If we have any material changes that transpire through the year, we certainly can update it at that point in time as well. It's critical to note that the financial forecast, the numbers only tell a small part of our story. For the numbers really to mean anything and be tangible, you really need to look at the notes and the assumptions before you draw any conclusions or use the data as a basis for other calculations. And those notes and assumptions will be submitted to the state. They're online presently on board docs for our community. The 5-year forecast encourages district management teams to examine future year projections and identify when challenges will arise. As we spoke about earlier, it's a 2-year biennium budget cycle. We have to plan and forecast 5 years out. The whole point of a forecast is to help the board manage and critically be proactive in meeting these challenges from a fiscal standpoint. Why does it matter? It's a tool to help the board and the community in long-range planning and identify the decisions and discussions around financial issues that are facing the district. Second, it serves as a basis for determining the school district's ability to sign the 412 certificate. The board president, myself, and the superintendent, we have to sign a 412 certificate that the financial obligations can be met for contracts that we enter into. The state is actually examining those heavily this year. There have been some districts out there that have encountered some financial challenges, so that's becoming a very critical compliance piece at the state level as we move forward. And then lastly, to provide a method for the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce and the Auditor of State to identify districts that may have potential financial problems. The forecast is divided into 2 sections, revenue and expenditures. The district's revenue is made up of 2 main sources, local and state funding. In fiscal year 24, last year, our local share was 75.4% and our state share was 21.3%. The expenditure side, it's predominantly salaries, wages and benefits, purchase services, supplies and materials. Last fiscal year, our personnel was 82% of our budget. No surprise, again, we work in the services industry with people. We've heard a lot about that this evening. That's the main driver of our budget. For this year's forecast, November of 24, we're going to talk a lot about our cash balance tonight. We'll tie that together here at the end. Our cash balance is positive through fiscal year 27. We're presently in fiscal year 25. Expenses begin to exceed revenue starting this fiscal year, deficit spending. We're facing an approximate $67 million deficit this fiscal year. Our cash deficit, as you can see by that bottom graph, is projected in fiscal year 28 and 29 to be $59.1 million and $212 million, respectively. That's our negative actual cash balance. Again, this is a projection based on what we know today. I would be remiss not to point out we have 2 budgets in this 5-year forecasting cycle. We're now beginning the legislative phase of another one this coming spring. As Board Member Cole mentioned earlier, it's critical that we get full funding of the Fair School Funding Plan, along with updated cost sets. That's going to be a main focus of our attention as we move forward here into the spring. Unchanged assumptions from our May forecast. On the revenue side, the transportation penalty at $15 million per year each year. That's $75 million in penalties that we're planning for. That remains unchanged. Again, the state funding formula right now is funded at 2/3. It's imperative for not just Columbus City schools, but all schools, that we get that full funding from the state. That's critical to what we need to do for our students and our staff. We heard a lot about that tonight. The cost of education just continues to rise. The needs that our students face continue to increase. On the expenditure side, we've 4% increase this year. We have estimated 2.5% fiscal year 26 through 29. Additionally, issue 11 last November, the levy promises Those are all reflected in this forecast. The positions that the district said they would fill, they have filled. We have added 495 positions to the general fund year over year. Updated assumptions versus the May 24. We've updated our actuals for fiscal year 24 that ended June 30th, fiscal year 25 beginning July 1, and we've projected those going forward. On the revenue side, we updated our property tax collections for calendar year 24, and we updated the actuals with projections moving forward. The state funding formula, we continue to maintain it at 2/3. I can't predict what the state's going to do. I don't want to mislead the board that it's going to go to 100%. We just don't know. We have to continue to advocate for that, but our forecast is built in, again, what we know today, and that's at 66%. On the expenditure side of the forecast, there's a 27th pay that's going to arrive in fiscal year 28, and I know there's been a ton of conversations around special ed, especially at the board level. It's important to note we have forecasted additional instructional assistants in our general fund. There were 53 that we moved from the IDA grant because the funding wasn't there to support those, as well as an additional 30 instructional assistants. We've included operational increases such as electricity, which is approximately $5.4 million over the life of this forecast. These are the types of assumptions that we've included in this forecast as we move forward. Our November 24 versus May 24 forecast, you can see there represented by colors. That lighter shade is the May forecast. The darker is the November. I want to note on the revenue side, we opened with the fiscal cliff. You'll see our revenue looks elevated compared to FY25, and that's because of transfers and advances from the ESSER funds to the general fund. So our revenue was skewed higher because of the way we had to account for pieces of ESSER. As you can see, moving forward with our expenditures, fiscal year 24, the May forecast, we had them estimated higher than where we came in as we trued our actuals up here in November. However, if you note, looking at our projections, again, because we moved 495 positions to the general fund this year, you can see starting in November, our forecast from November to May has increased on the expenditure side. If you think about it, it makes sense. 82% plus of our budget is salaries and benefits from our staff. We have to educate students. It's an expensive business to be in, and again, the needs have not decreased. We know that, we see it, we hear about it. Cash balance, as you can see here, November of 24 versus where we were at in May. Again, the lighter shade is where we forecasted in May we would be at. The darker shade is where we're at here in November. Again, over a 5-year period, I'd like to note where we start to run into that danger zone is on that far right-hand side. That's actual negative cash on hand. As we look at our programs and our educational opportunities for students, it's imperative that we have a sustainable approach to what we do. Actual cash deficits are not sustainable. Again, operating expenses are up. We're seeing that. We're forecasting it. Our cash balance is beginning to shrink over the next several fiscal years. We're looking at putting some steps in place through ETRMC, then the policy committee, a cash balance policy. It's going to cut both ways. A 30 to 60 day cash balance is healthy. We'll talk about that as we progress through the PowerPoint. However, it's also important to note we're not a bank. We have to educate students. So the flip side of that policy is when we hit a certain threshold, the superintendent will be authorized to spend those funds down to that point as long as they align with the strategic priorities of the district as set by the board. So there's safeguards to protect us on the downside and the upside, and we continue to work on that. November 24, revenue versus expenditures. That lighter shaded part of the graph there is our actual numbers from the last 3 fiscal years as we're required to show in a 5-year forecast. The right-hand side is the projections and the assumptions we've made moving forward. I'll note that light-colored line, yellow, is the 60-day cash balance. So as you can see in FY25 and FY26, we're still very much in compliance if we were to have a 60-day cash balance. Again, as we head to FY27, we start to dip below that. The engine's overheating a bit in the car. We're putting ourselves in danger of not being able to sustainably educate students. So again, that's why I believe a cash balance policy is critical. It's not meant to be detrimental. Again, we're not a bank, but we want to offer sustainable opportunities and programs that we invest in for the long run, not just that short-term quick fix. I want to note on the right the days cash on hand. Again, it shows that story, paints that picture. Fiscal year 25, this fiscal year, we have 122 days cash on hand. We're fiscally sound. However, as we begin to progress forward through the forecast, you can see where we drop in 2029 to negative days on cash, again, because our cushion is slowly being eroded. Estimated general fund revenue sources for FY25. It's no secret here, we're heavily reliant on our local tax base. 71% is property taxes. Basically, we shift towards an 80-20 model with the state. 80% local, 20% state. So again, any relief we get from that fair school funding plan is going to assist us with educating students. As we look at that 80-20 split, our revenues flatten out, and that's due mainly to House Bill 920. If you think back to last year when you were on the ballot, issue 11, 7.7 mils was voted and approved. However, with reevaluation, the effective millage was rolled back to 5.15 mils. That's what we collected that first half of the year. It was voted at 7.7, and we collected 5.15. House Bill 920 works against us. We don't see growth as a school district. That's why we're constantly and continually going out as the expense to educate student rises. We have to go back to our community to meet that need, due largely in part to House Bill 920. We don't get that inflationary relief as the expenses grow. General fund expenditures. We started out talking about 82% this fiscal year staff. We progress as we grow to 85% of our budget will be salaries and benefits. The expenditure side of the equation very much to me looks like Pac-Man on that chart. There's really only so much as a district that you can cut on that non-personnel side to really balance that budget. Again, we're in the people business. We're here to educate students and do it sustainably. We have to have lights. We have to have purchase service contracts. We have to have teachers. It's an expensive business to be in. We're going to grow from 82 to 85% of our expenditures, we estimate, for salaries and benefits over the next 5 years. I think this graphic does a good job of encapsulating that upward trajectory. Again, as I just mentioned, 85% of our expenditures in fiscal year 29 are salaries and benefits. You can see that red part at the top is everything but salaries and benefits. That's the pressure we face as a district to provide that education. That cost is going to continue to increase. The needs are going to continue to grow. Cash balance. 30 to 60 days is a responsible target. We can't by law close the books with any less than 0. We're heading towards that in 28 and 29 if we don't course correct. Again, we have a policy pending that's going to be worked through some committee work. My recommendation would be a 60-day cash balance target. I think 30 is too thin. It takes time to make decisions and plan. 60 is responsible. It gives us enough of a metric to work with as we identify challenges, that we have that cushion, that savings account that folks have at home. That's what that cash balance is for. In conclusion, revenues are not keeping pace with our expenses, again, primarily due to House Bill 920. We don't get that inflationary growth. Revenues declining by 1.3% a year over the next 5 years, yet our expenses are outpacing it at 5.1%. So we've got a 1.3% decline combined with a 5.3% increase in our expenditures. There's significant uncertainties. Again, 2 budgets in this cycle. We don't know what they're going to do. We hope, and we're going to advocate for, fully funding the Fair School Funding Plan and updating those cost sets. A big one for us, that transportation penalty. When you think about the deficits we've spoken about tonight, $75 million of that is the transportation penalty. In addition, we're spending $15 million plus a year to offset that transportation penalty. That alone right there is $150 million just on transportation. When we're talking $221 million deficit, that's a significant chunk of why we're where we're heading. Upcoming personnel negotiations, current assumptions again, 82 to 85% of our budget's people, we've projected 2.5% in this. We're going to need to look at budget cuts or attrition, new revenue sources, or a combination of both. And again, I think there's a lot of things we have on the table to help us mitigate this risk. I look at fiscal year 28 and 29 as that hurricane or tropical storm out there on the far right-hand side. There's a number of things we can do as a district proactively to blow that storm off course. But again, we need to start buying our plywood at Home Depot today. We need to plan. Some of the initiatives we're looking at, academic return on investment. What's the bang for the buck that we're getting? Where do we resource allocate and maximize those dollars to, again, help us make sustainable decisions in the long run? That's critical. Businesses do it. We need to begin to undertake that, and we're going to do that work starting after the first of the year. Cash balance policy. Critically important so that we have a buffer. The one thing we have right now is time. Fiscal year 28 and 29 aren't here tomorrow, but we don't want that time to slip away. That cash balance is our savings account that will let us navigate, plan, and enact sustainable methods to educate our students. Questions?
Thank you for this presentation, Treasurer Cook, and thank you for doing it to the ETRM committee. I think that we had a lot of really great comments and maybe shocked faces from some of our community members, understanding the way that schools are funded and the constraints that we have on us. I have a question about the updated assumptions and some of the information we heard today. I know that we have already made some assumptions around special education and additional staff over this period. What about around the ELL kind of team and needs there? I think that we are anticipating more growth and need and resources in that area. Is that something that is part of this assumption, and should it be?
Those aren't in this forecast. We don't know what those numbers are yet. If they're material, or we would increase the staffing levels to where I think it makes a material difference, we will revise the forecast. As we look at those pieces and that equity piece, as we move forward, we're going to really tighten down how we hire, how that fits in, where that resource allocation model goes. Right now we have a personnel budget that we hire to. I'm going to begin to shift the focus to a personnel plan so that the superintendent's office and my office bring a plan to the board. Once the board approves that plan then will go into the forecast. And then additionally, around the first of the year, I'm going to start to enhance the monthly reporting so that as we make hires at the board level, you can see month to month what that impact is positively or negatively on that cash balance. Again, we have to educate students. I recognize there's a fiscal component to this, but I want to make sure the board has the information so that they know what these impacts are. We're going to work, Catherine and I have actually had some conversations around this. It's imperative that we partner with the superintendent's office. They're responsible for personnel, and that planning component is critical to our office. And that's what I want to make sure we deliver for the board. So those aren't in here yet because I don't know what they are, but I'm pretty sure they're coming.
Board Member Cole.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Treasurer, for the presentation. I appreciate you impressing upon us the need for a policy versus a culture of cash on hand. We've had a culture of cash on hand that started off at 30 days and then grew into the 60-day best practice. But I appreciate you pushing us to look at this from a policy perspective. In addition to that, thank you for lighting the match, the pilot in the heated seat for more structured and timely decision-making around the question you just asked, Board Member Adair. See, I remembered your name this time. I love her. That's my sister. But I really appreciate you lighting that proverbial pilot to heat the seat, because we actually need that. I think that's going to put us in a better economic position, planning-wise, to be able to know what's coming down the pike, know where we can actually look at shifting costs somewhere that's absolutely needed, specifically to educate children. So I appreciate that. My question is this. In the page 11 of the cash on hand piece, so you started off at 2025 at 122 days cash on hand. And I realize that we're beyond 2025 at this point. But is there opportunity moving forward for us to spread that out? So say, for example, in 2026, we're at 83 days. Well, we're not. We're 2024.
Yeah.
Lord, am I? See, I'm lost on the time. Okay, so 2025, 122 days cash on hand. Is there opportunity for us to level that off so that we're at 60 days or higher through 2028 or 2029?
Yeah, there is, and I think the answer to that question lies in that policy component. My goal with the policy is when we don't see that cash balance, that 60 days on hand, that policy triggers the treasurer's office and the superintendent's office to come up with a plan to do exactly that, gotcha, to bring us back into compliance with that. Yes, we can, and we should.
Okay, so this is again an opportunity to utilize time to be proactive. Correct. This is not a fire as it is right, as others might perceive it to be right now. This is our opportunity to level off this money so that we're actually able to balance out cash on hand through 2029.
That's exactly right. That opening slide, this is a proactive tool to help us identify those challenges and begin to head them off.
Thank you.
Board Member Pierce. I don't have it. Oh, okay, perfect. All right, I just have one question, and I don't know if this is a legal question, so James Barnes, but going back to the penalty question, yes, I guess I'm just trying to get clarity, like, when will we know? I know we've been having the conversation around, like, the penalty and holding this money, and I guess I'm just trying to get clarity as to, like, how long are we going to kind of be in limbo with having to account for this before we know, is this a real penalty that we're going to have to pay, or, and I don't know if that's a...
So let me jump in on that a little bit. Yes, we are presently working with our legislatures to begin to answer that question. It is a real penalty. We were actually assessed $9 million last fiscal year for approximately half the year. We may actually be a little bit low. If we extrapolate that out for a full year, we might be at 18 million, but we're comfortable with 15 right now. We don't have a definitive time frame with litigation pending, et cetera. I need to make sure that I forecast that out, because again, if I don't put that in there and then it just shows up, you're all going to look at me and go, what happened? So it's a very real threat to our district right now. We're currently in litigation on it. We are being assessed, It appears that that penalty is going to be assessed at the end of the fiscal year, from what we've seen, June-ish. So yes, until we can see something take that out legislatively, we need to continue to move that forward based on the calculations we're seeing presently.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else, Treasurer Cook? I mean, that was a lot, not that I expect you.
No, we'll approve it at the next meeting. That's okay, just discussion tonight.
All right, just discussion, right? No action?
Correct, no action tonight.
That's what I thought. All right.
Thank
Okay, colleagues, thank you, Treasurer Cook. So we will move, let's move on down. So colleagues, we're going to move into our consent agenda, which consists of items 10.1 to 25.2. Are there any items a member would like to have removed or voted on individually from the consent agenda?
Yes.
Board Member Pierce?
24.1 and 24.2, given that they indicate the Ohio State University.
Those are actually already moved to
No.
other.
They're not in board docs, they still.
Where are you? Oh, 24.
24.1.
Okay, 24.1.
Because if you look at the scope of work, attachment 4, scope of work, page 5 of 6, it states Ohio State. 24.1 in the background also states Ohio State. So those two items, 24.1, 24.2, please move down to other legislation.
24.1 to 24.2. Is there a motion to approve moving 24.1
So moved.
and 24.2? Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce.
You're welcome.
So let me do my numbering. 26.4. All right, so we will move into back to the consent agenda. So items 10.1 to 25.2. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Perfect. And then we will move into other legislation. Item 26.1, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Abstain.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. We will move into item 26.2. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any objections, discussions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Abstain.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, we'll move into item 26.3. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any objections, discussions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Abstain.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, and then we will move into item 26.4. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Objections? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Abstain.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, and then we will move into item 26.5. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Pierce?
Abstain.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. So at this time, we will move into executive session, and I will hand it to Vice President Pierce for the motion.
Thank you so much, President. Vera. I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per section 121.22 per G1, Ohio Revised Code, to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees.
That is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Vice President Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Reyes,
Yes.
Mr. Simmons,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Ingles,
Yes.
President Vera.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, at this time, we will head into executive session. When we return, we will not be live, so thank you all and have a good evening.